Okay, let's go ahead and get started. Hello and welcome to today's webinar, Anchoring Local Arts Agencies in the Arts Ecosystem. I'm Heather Flanagan. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm the Artist Engagement and Accessibility Policy Manager at Americans for the Arts. I'm calling in today from Warrenton, Virginia, originally home to the Manahoac people. And I identify as an able-bodied, light-skinned mixed woman with shoulder-length, curly, dark brown hair. And today I'm wearing a black blouse with white sort of wayfinding swirls and a red lip. My background includes the Americans for the Arts logo in the corner against a gray and purple backdrop. We at Americans for the Arts share visual self-descriptions as part of our ongoing commitment to accessibility. And practices like this are particularly important when you're not sure if your audience members may be blind or have low vision. Another accessibility practice you'll see us trying to model today is stating our names before we speak. This is also helpful for our ASL, American Sign Language interpreters, who are then supporting folks that are deaf or hard of hearing. It also helps to indicate when we're switching between presenters. So let's jump in. I'm honored to be your host today. Also, if you have any technical needs, please send a chat to my colleague, April. And your questions can be put in the Q&A box. To select ASL interpretation, please click the interpretation button. It sort of looks like a little globe in the Zoom toolbar, and then you select American Sign Language. Zoom-generated closed captions are also available today, and they can be toggled on or off by clicking on the arrow to the right of the closed caption button. So today, you'll hear from a few of my colleagues about Americans for the Arts' affirmed commitment to local arts agencies, along with the local arts agency Wayfinder, which we also call the LAA Wayfinder. You may hear both today, as well as, so we'll talk about how it came to be, how to use it, and what we're planning for future updates and improvements. We also have a guest speaker today, Ariel Shelton, the co-executive director of External Relations and Community Impact at CultureWorks Greater Philadelphia. So Ariel is going to talk about how she has used the LA Wayfinder and possibilities that she sees for it. So we also today want to hear from you all and gather some feedback about what we can consider adding in the future, as well as maybe ideas you have for how you might use the Wayfinder. So also, being that we are operating in the context of the world around us, I want to take a moment to acknowledge the ongoing climate disasters, as well as the emergent political activity that we are closely attuned to at Americans for the Arts. And we will do our best to share what we know in the coming weeks with you all. Also, we know that some of you may be feeling unsteady, just to put it broadly. Some of you may be experiencing some insecurity around funding or uncertainty for programming that is dear to your communities. But that's why we do this work. And beyond our advocacy and research work at Americans for the Arts, we see our role as a national organization to be a connector and to convene folks and to foster the cross-organization collaborations. So the Wayfinder is a part of that, and we hope that it will help to connect folks who are doing similar work or want to do similar work or have a problem that they need a solution for and want to seek out peers to figure that out together. So now switching over to the Wayfinder, let's talk about how it even got started. We launched it last fall. It is a living interactive database of local arts agencies across the country. It's a tool that uplifts the position of local arts agencies as thought leaders and policy and program creators on a wide range of topics and issues. And so we're going to talk about how it has facilitated information sharing already, and between local arts agencies as well as within the field, and helping community leaders and those outside of the arts too help identify their local arts agency. It is also contextually, it is the latest addition to our Arts Impact Explorer tool. And that tool is a case-making powerhouse tool for the field. So today we want to reintroduce you to the Arts Impact Explorer as well as the Wayfinder, and share some practical ways of how these tools can be used in hyperlocal settings. So with that, next up, we have my colleague, Randy Cohen, VP of Research, on video talking about how the Arts Impact Explorer got started. And he would be here with us live, but he last year and over the last many months visited over 100 cities for the arts and economic prosperity work. So we're glad he's taking a well-deserved vacation, and he happens to be doing that with some of the wildlife in Australia. So we're glad that Randy could record this for us and give us a little bit of context around the Arts Impact Explorer. So I will pause there and pass it to the video.
Hi, I'm Randy Cohen, Vice President of Research at Americans for the Arts, and welcome to our Arts Impact Explorer webinar. And I'm so excited that you're here with us today. And I'm just so excited about the Impact Explorer. It's a fabulous tool that we've had around, which gives you just one place to go to start to identify arts and community development program issue areas, issue slices, 30 of them. You can get them right here on your phone. And we've just updated the Explorer, and I hope everyone's had an opportunity to give it a spin, literally, figuratively. We've got new content, we've got new features, and I actually got to use the Explorer myself in a real high pressure situation not long ago. I was out west, I was giving a speech talking about arts and community. And about 10 minutes before I went on, the organizer asked if I could include some content about arts and the environment. And I was like, yes, I can do that. But, honestly, I didn't have a lot at the top of my head. So I went to my phone, I went to the Explorer, and you can see, you can just pull this right up on your phone. And I pulled out the slice about arts and environment. And it had some research, some case studies, had 4 pages of information there for me to work with. So this is just a great tool. And I want to express some acknowledgments. We actually got the idea for this tool from a National Canadian Dance Association a number of years back. And we came across it and we saw their version of it, which had all different kinds of dance forms in Canada. And we looked at it and we were just so impressed at how this one point of entry, could just lead us to so much information. And we adapted the idea and we created one for arts and community impact issues. Along the way, we've had fabulous support from funders, from Doris Duke Foundation, from the Mellon Foundation, from the National Endowment for the Arts. And so big thanks to them. And also a big thanks to you. Big thanks to you for being a user, for being an arts advocate, to the local arts agencies, which help populate so much of this content, and our culture bearers doing just the great work again and again. Everything you do to advance the arts is important. You're important for doing it. And I'm so excited that we've got one more tool to help us to get there. So let me pass it to Heather and enjoy the rest of this webinar, and also look for more webinars this year as well.
I love Randy. We got some love in the chat for Randy. So that's our sort of the impetus for the Arts Impact Explorer. Next, I'm going to have my colleague Mital Lyons-Warren tell us about some of the building blocks for the LAA Wayfinder. Go ahead, Mital.
Thank you, Heather, so much. Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining today. My name is Mital Lyons Warren. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm the local engagement manager at Americans for the Arts. I'm a white millennial woman with curly blonde hair with my sides shaved down, and today my hair is up in a bun. I'm wearing a blue and white striped shirt. I have glasses and I'm wearing painted earrings. My background is gray and purple with the AFTA logo in the corner. I am rooted in community in Northeast Washington, D.C., the unceded lands of the Piscataway and Honkatonk people. Americans for the Arts works with, through, and for local art agencies to create accessible opportunities to engage with arts and culture across the nation. We know local art agencies are essential to empower when making changes in communities on any topic. And that is because local art agencies are uniquely positioned to connect organizations, artists, culture bearers, and everyday people who benefit from the power of the arts. We heard in the recent Americans Speak Out About the Arts report that Americans know arts and culture add value to their community. 86% of Americans believed arts and culture improve their community's quality of life and livability, and 79% believe arts and culture are important to their community's businesses, economy, and local jobs. As the field has grown and changed, so have the needs. Since the 1960s, we have seen local art agency numbers grow more than tenfold, with the greatest expansion occurring in the 70s and 80s. The sector has advanced significantly, from organizations like Boys and Girls Clubs or Park and Rec departments, filling in the gaps for communities as more formal nonprofits and government agencies developed to serve art and culture. Even now, however, we know that each community in America is distinct, and therefore how a local art agency shows up is dependent on needs and capacity. Today, we know local art agencies operate in all 50 states, as well as Washington, D.C. and Puerto Rico. The ecosystem that supports arts and culture locally has also evolved, spanning from the hyperlocal to national. This includes art service organizations, cultural institutions, creative workers, and culture bearers at the local level who are supported by local art agencies through grants and services, as well as advocated for by that local art agency. I know we have some state art agency and state art advocacy organizations joining us today, and you provide funding to local art agencies as well as connection and policy. Regional arts organizations and national service organizations like the National Endowment for the Arts and Americans for the Arts take a broader view, recognizing trends, developing transnational resources, connecting cross-sector partners, and convening to activate local champions. All of us play a critical role in ensuring that the arts are accessible and inclusive. Tools like the Art Impact Explorer expanded to bring clarification on how Americans for the Arts sees local arts agencies as essential to thriving communities for the public and connect each of you together. We see the LAA Wayfinder as a living instrument to support our commitment to local art agencies. I want to give thanks and appreciation for former colleagues who pushed this work forward so that the programs team now could continue to evolve this tool. Americans for the Arts historically has had directories for organizations that fit our definition of a local art agency. As noted earlier, the sector has changed a lot in the past few decades, and it necessitated us to adapt as well. In 2022, coming off our strategic realignment process, staff started the process of reaffirming our shared definition of a local art agency to allow us to make better decisions and generate valuable dialogue amongst ourselves, partners, and collaborators. Our updated Advancing Arts Locally page starts with the broad sentence that local arts agencies are community-based organizations that integrate the arts into the daily fabric of their communities and work to advance the arts locally. As you read down that page, the criteria builds out that definition, including needing to be municipal or county-based, non-discipline specific, and engaging in a combination of 7 things for their community: advocacy and policy, funding and financing, services for creatives, managing facilities, partnerships and planning, programs and events, and visibility. This definition allowed staff to start confirming data with our historic database and state art agencies, many of which, but not all, set the designation for local art agencies in their state. This approach gave insight into publicly available information on local arts agencies, how they define themselves, and discovering potentially new local art agencies across the country. At the end of 2023, this internal Excel sheet of organizations was passed to me as the local engagement manager. As an internal directory at the time, the information was used to connect folks reaching out to us with their local resources, bridging a gap of understanding of who local arts agencies are and how they can support community members. It was also used to connect state, regional, and national organizations to local art agencies and the geographic area they were engaging in. Support from the growing local engagement team brought forward the idea of a tool that would be open to the public. Months of planning and building occurred to get us to where we are today. Since the public launch last October, we have had conversations with folks in the field on how the Wayfinder can be a better tool. We've had conversations about the difference between states when it comes to designated local arts agencies, how some communities have more than one organization sharing the responsibilities, the nuances from locality to locality, the weight of the term local art agency, digging into the history of local art agencies as they've moved from informal settings to a more formal foundation, and how they continue to be responsive to the changes that emerge. A definition that fits a very large body, over 2,200 organizations as of today on our map, takes time to navigate. Our hope for this tool is to give access to a collection of local organizations who are uniquely working across the arts and culture sector in their community. Today in the webinar, you will see a tool that is part of our recommitment to local art agencies. As we refine as we go, we appreciate folks' willingness to share their perspective. A form will be shared later in the webinar and in a follow-up email as a way to provide feedback on the Wayfinder. This is a continuous process, and we are always happy to connect. So please don't hesitate to reach out. My colleague will put my email in the chat as well if you'd like to reach out directly. I am deeply grateful to all the folks in the field who I've connected with, and a big thank you to those who have volunteered their time to explore the possibilities with us. We look forward to progressing our commitment through virtual and in-person engagement, advocacy, communication, and research. If you want to share about your programs, if you want to share your concerns, we're the team for you. Heather, I'll turn it back to you.
Thanks, Natal. This is Heather speaking. So now we're going to pull up a brief video introducing you to the LAA Wayfinder. And then our colleague Gigi Bond, who really has become one of the engineers of the LAA Wayfinder, is going to demonstrate how to use the tool and also how to add local arts agencies that you may not see on there just yet. So off to the next video.
The Local Arts Agency's LAA Wayfinder is a tool that helps users find and learn about local arts agencies across the country. Thousands of these anchor organizations create thriving communities across the United States and its territories. Local arts agencies serve and inspire our communities by bringing arts and culture to people of all ages, ranging from after-school arts education classes and community choruses to folk art displays and grants that support the broader arts ecosystem and everything in between. Use this wayfinding tool to explore each local arts agency and its community impact. Use the search bar to look for a local arts agency or filter your search by state. When you click on the organization from the list on the left, the map will zoom in with details. Or, after selecting your state, browse the map and zoom into your chosen area to see which art agencies are local, along with their address. Each local arts agency's website is easily accessed by clicking the agency's name on the map. To add a local arts agency to the Wayfinder, log into the site using your Americans for the Arts credentials. If you don't have an account, signing up is free and easy. click on the Add Update a LAA button in the screen's upper right-hand corner and fill in the required information. Once submitted, the form is reviewed by Americans for the Arts staff, and the Wayfinder will be updated within 48 business hours.
Over to you, Gigi.
Hi, everybody. Thank you, Heather. My name is Gigi Ban. I use she, her pronouns, and I am a program manager at Americans for the Arts. I'm an Asian millennial woman with black short hair that is tied today. I'm wearing a blue sweater with glasses. And at Americans for the Arts, I manage the Arts Impact Explorer and the LAA Wayfinder. And as you've already seen in the video, I'm just going to give you a very quick virtual walkthrough of the Explorer and where the Wayfinder is in context to that. So let me just share my screen. I'm sure many of you have been here, but this is the Arts Impact Explorer homepage, and you will see the pinwheel that Randy mentioned earlier. And if you scroll up to the top, you will find that here is a tab where you can go in to build your own fact sheet with the data that we have in our local project database and publication database, as well as a how-to page explaining how you can utilize the Arts Impact Explorer more in detail. But today I want to bring your attention to the LAA Wayfinder tab, which is located at the very end of the Arts Impact Explorer. And if you click on that tab, here we are. You've seen in the video, but let me just go over briefly how you can navigate. So we have a list of about 2,200 local arts agencies that you can find here to your left. You can use the search bar, or you can click on the agency's name and then it'll take you directly to the map pin. Or you can use the state filters. Right now we have, let's see, California. California has a lot of different organizations. So if you click onto any of these, it'll zoom in and you're able to go to their website and find their address. Specifically, I wanted to go over adding part of the local arts agency Wayfinder. It's really cool because anyone with an Americans for the Arts login can add themselves. And how you figure that out is if you see your email address on top here, then you are logged in. Otherwise, it'll have, hello, please log in, sign instead of this. So I know that I am logged in. And then once you are logged in, this button that says Add Update LAA will appear. Once you click on this button, you will be taken to this page, and I'm going to zoom in. And you fill out a series of brief questions. And really, the purpose of these is for, I mean, Heather will explain later in the webinar, but for phase 2, we are planning on building out more filters. So it's to help the tool be able to help you navigate and find folks and connect you to folks who are doing similar work. So the name, street address, city, zip code, website. I want to just quickly mention that we've had some folks have questions around the website portion because if you don't put in the HTTP dot a colon slash in front of your URL, it'll give you an error message when you're submitting. So just make sure you have that in front here before you submit. You get to answer these questions around the filters of the Arts Impact Explorer, your email address, and then please share with us your programs, services, and resources. You can add as many as you would like. It really helps us to build out our local project database for you to be able to use and connect with each other. Once you hit the submit review button, Americans for the Arts staff, me and Mital and Heather and April and our team will review and publish on the Wayfinder, and you will be able to find your local arts agency on the map. I think that was all I wanted to go over, so I'm going to stop sharing my screen and pass it back to my colleague, Heather.
Thank you, Gigi. I'm sure we'll have you back for questions when we get into that section of today's agenda. But right now, oh, this is Heather speaking. I'm excited to have our guest presenter join us, Ariel Shelton. Reminder, she is the co-executive director of external relations and community impact at CultureWorks Greater Philadelphia. Hi, Ariel. Can you tell us about maybe how you've used the Wayfinder or how you're thinking of using the Wayfinder for your local arts community and then building bigger community beyond your locality?
Absolutely. So I'm actually going to take a little bit of a last minute visual tour around some things, just to provide a little bit of background on my personal interests and how that came to play in discovering the LAA Wayfinder. So back in 2014, I was at the time performing as a French horn musician and was also simultaneously bartending at a spot called Busboys and Poets, located in the DC region. And as I was continuing my freelance journey as a musician, I was coming across all of these amazing organizations that were supporting local musicians. As a bartender at that restaurant, I was able to book the venue at a discounted rate, and I produced my very, 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 very first event. And that event was co-produced with a friend of mine who was doing some work through Facebook, just bring together musicians through the Urban Musicians Network. And I mean, I could go on and on and on, but essentially we had a space where we had tables set up with organizations like the Musicianship in the DC region, an after-school music provider. We had organizations like the National Association of Negro Musicians, which is an organization that's been around for more than 100 years, providing support and scholarship to folks that identify as African American or Black in the country as musicians. And these were organizations that didn't know that each other existed in this localized area. So with that being the very first event that I produced and just seeing the impact over time and connecting folks together in that way, it was thrilling. It was exciting. The person that actually designed this graphic is a gentleman by the name of Curry Hackett. And Curry has gone on to do incredible work as a visual artist. I definitely recommend that people check him out. But yeah, he uses AI to reimagine worlds and is over at Harvard now. And I could go on and on and on about Curry, but yeah, he designed that flyer as well. So this was also, his first foray. With all of that said, the idea of collaboration and bringing folks together and providing support amongst one another to share resources is something that I have found as being incredibly important in what we do as a sector. In order for us to be as economically sound as possible, in order for us to make sure that what we're producing is as rich and culturally responsible as possible, as accessible as possible, all of this can't happen if we don't know one another, if we're not building relationships, if we don't recognize the geographic region in which we exist and the players they're in and their histories. And so discovering the work that Americans for the Arts is up to was just really exciting for me. And forgive me, I didn't describe myself. So again, name is Ariel. I identify as a Black woman, light skin. Right now, I have on a navy hoodie, or excuse me, sweatshirt that says Detroit born and Howard educated. And I'm just really proud to, see the positive outcomes that deepened community ties has brought for us in the midst of deep discomfort, even now. And I'm empowered in knowing that there are efforts being made with organizations like Americans for the Arts and so many others to ensure that we all collectively are doing what we can to ensure sustainability and stronger economic ties for one another. So I'm looking forward to just seeing how things continue to develop. And I recognize that this is